Hello Internet, and welcome to Not My Library. So a little backstory. Shortly after I started my channel, I ended up having some things come up in life and took a break. So I've been getting ready to ramp it back up and prepping to start the channel again. The main thing I've been waiting on is to actually build my library, which is still in construction, so to say. So, this little impromptu video came about when my daughter wanted to get into FNAF, which is Five Nights at Freddy's. I didn't know much about it, but like I do when I want to get into anything, I dive all the way in. So to start off, I bought her some video games and some books, and then of course, almost immediately I realized that the timeline's all over the place, so I decided to try to organize the timeline so we can go through it chronologically. The problem is it's a bit messier than I would think. So, of course, when there's a messy timeline, video games, there's only one person that I normally go to for these answers, and that's MatPat over at The Game Theorist. So, MatPat did an ultimate timeline of FNAF just last year. However, parts of it didn't feel right to me. So I was looking at it, doing research on it, and I think I have a theory that can fix this problem. And the part I'm specifically talking about is when the Elizabeth character dies. MatPat has her dying after the crying boy. But everything in the story makes it seem like she should be dying before him. And I'll let MatPat explain why and why he moved it.
Okay, so most of this is things that we already knew, stuff that's been established and re-established time and time again by the games. That said, there are two things that I absolutely have to address. The first and biggest is the placement of sister location, or more specifically, Elizabeth's death. To me, evidence in game seems to suggest that it was meant to come before the crying child's death in 1983. The biggest clue to this is that the crying child saw something. Remember what you saw is the phrase that's repeated over and over again by psychic friend Fredbear, aka William Afton speaking through a walkie-talkie in the Fredbear plushie's stomach. But what did he see? Well, I think we can tell based on how the nightmare animatronics are visualized. They have mouths in their stomachs, just like Baby ripping in half at the waist to swallow a kid. There's also the empty girl's room, one presumably left behind by a dead sister. And lastly, it explains why he's scared, and more specifically why Afton wants him scared. He needs his kids to stay away from the animatronics. He doesn't want them getting too close, because the last time one of his kids got too close to a robot, his daughter died. That's then why he sets up the nightmares, to scare both Mike and the crying child away from the animatronics from that point forward. That's why books like the Character Encyclopedia outright suggest that we play as the crying child in FNAF 4. That's why he has a nanny cam following the crying child everywhere, so he can keep tabs on his kids when they're out of his sight. He can't let another Elizabeth situation happen. The death of Elizabeth also gives William Afton extra motivation for killing. He's a grieving father. His daughter was taken away from him, so Charlie should die as well. He's lashing out at the world after losing his kids. And again, we know that at least one of his children had to have died prior to Charlie's death, based on the mound of dirt that we see in Midnight Motorist. It also allows circus babies to open and close earlier in the timeline, which is how you wind up with Funtime Foxy appearing as Mangle in the FNAF 2 location. Basically, Elizabeth dying first has everything it needs to fit, except for the most important thing, the murder weapon. Why would Afton be building an animatronic with a giant claw in its stomach so early in the timeline? At this point, he just has no motive. It just doesn't make sense prior to 1983. At this point in the story, he hasn't killed anyone, and we know for a fact that the missing children's incident is 1985. So Elizabeth's death coming before any of those events just doesn't work, hence why I placed it where I did in the narrative timeline.
But I think I have a theory that adds this missing piece to the puzzle. A theory that explains why William Afton would be making an animatronic with a grabber in his stomach before he started killing kids. And that theory takes us back to when he was a kid. From MatPat's video, he theorized that William Afton went to Fredbear's singing show. And he loved it. It was one of his favorite things, and inspired him to go forward and make his own entertainment franchise. But what if I were to tell you that something tragic happened at one of those shows? Now follow me. A young William Afton is going to see his favorite bear singing and dancing for the third or fourth time. And he's enjoying the show, but this time something unexpected happens. The bear turns and attacks its handler, and it traumatizes all the kids for life. But Afton isn't scared. He's intrigued. He has these emotions that he doesn't understand, but doesn't know what to do with them. Now we jump forward several years now. Afton still creates his restaurants. Everything from MatPat's timeline still works just fine. He still loves the bear. It still inspired him to make his own restaurant and the figures and the dancing, which led to the animatronics. But he still remembers that feeling he saw when he saw the bear maul its trainer, which makes him want to find that feeling again, rediscover that weird sensation. But he doesn't want to hurt anybody. He's a good person. Well, now that he has experience in building robotics from Henry, his partner, he decides to go and tinker a little bit. So he goes back and to his little research facility and starts tinkering, making a robot that could maul or eat somebody. But there's a few problems. The mouth isn't big enough. Well, what would be big enough? The torso. So he puts something in the torso, like a mouth, that could open up and get somebody. But the unthinkable happens. After he's tinkering and makes this thing, he made it. Remember, he never wanted to hurt anybody. He's not bad. He just wanted to see if he could do it. He just wanted to see if it'd be possible. And it was. But two of his kids show up to see what Daddy's doing. He warns them not to go over by it, but the daughter doesn't listen. Bam! Before he knows it, it gets her. And the poor son sees the whole thing. Now, this may be a bit of a leap getting to this point, but it fixes the problem of sister location and where it goes. It gives a reason to why he would make this, and it gives the tragedy for the crying boy. Now I get that this theory is a bit of a leap, but hear me out. This leap would explain why Afton was building such a machine so early on in the timeline, and also it would explain to him being able to come back to this idea and make it for killing kids later. He could upgrade it, make modifications, but also with Elizabeth's death happening sooner, it makes this location happen earlier, or means it can happen earlier, which allows Funtime Foxy to become mangled in FNAF 2, and why Michael, who wouldn't be starting his journey to be the security guard until after Sister Location, so it could still work and he could still be the security guard in FNAF 2. One of the biggest jumps, though, that I came to is the bear attack. But is that really that big of a jump? We have real life accidents happen all the time. Working with live animals is very dangerous. Even trained professionals still have accidents. I don't think that's that big of a jump. It would add a tragedy in the young boy's life, which would make it even that much closer to why and how he could snap later on, but also gives like kind of a mental reason why to stuff the bodies in the suits. It kind of makes the pieces just kind of fall together. But hey, that's just a theory. A game theory. Thanks for watching. And for anyone who is going to watch this, the intro to this episode and the outro is meant to be a homage to MatPat and the Game Theorist. And to MatPat, you've made a lot of great videos, and I'm sorry to see you leaving YouTube, but I understand. Thank you for being such an inspiration to be able to do this myself. And also, your Minecraft lore gave me and my daughter basically a set of building blocks of lore for our Minecraft server, so we could kind of create our own story mode and actually play Minecraft as if it was a story. So Matt, Pat, thank you.